So we're on the top of Nun Beis Amud Aleph. The bottom line before has spoken the Mishnah. We learned the Mishnah, and when we learned it, if you remember a couple of days ago, so it starts and we said that the whole issue of Gerach HaGet means that there were two wives. The one who died had two wives, and he gave a get to one, he get to the other one, or Mamar to one, Mamar to the other one. But the Mishnah, when it starts explaining, it doesn't explain that. It doesn't explain the case of two wives. It explains the case of one wife. And we explained the Mishnah. We even started from a few lines into the Mishnah. Just to scroll back again, just to see the Mishnah again. That Mishnah started with Ein Gerach HaGet, and then Ma'amar. Then when it says Ketzad, this Ketzad, where's the Ketzad? The Chachamim say there is that says Ketzad. This Ketzad, we said the Mishnah starts over here, and we didn't. It has nothing to do with the beginning. So we just did that according to what the Gemara is going to say now. But the Gemara starts in the beginning. It says the Mishnah doesn't read. It starts about Gerach HaGet, Ma'amar Chamaimar. Then it says these cases about one husband and one wife. There's no such case of a get and get to one wife, Mama to one wife. So that's what the Gemara here is going to analyze how to read the Mishnah. So we're on Nun. What is it? Nun Beis. The Gemara Sakasha on the Ketzad. The Gemara says, "Hi Gerach HaGetu." If that's the case of Gerach HaGet, it doesn't say Gerach HaGet. It doesn't say talk about two Gittin. It doesn't talk about two wives. It just talks about one Yavam and one Yevama. And that's not talking about the. What did it have over here? It had a case of first Mamre and then Get, Mamre and Chalitza, Mamre and Baal, Get. It doesn't talk about Gerach HaGet, Mamre and Chamaima. So that's the most problem. You have to read the Mishnah like this. Gerach HaGet, Mamre and Chamaima, Kedamara. It means the first Mishnah we just spoke about, and it was Machlokes about Gerach HaGet and Mamre and Chamaima. That was a Machlokes. But now the question is Yavam Echad V'Bama Achas Ketzad. That's the after a case after Rasan. That's you have to stick in that there's a new question. The case that is not going back in the beginning of the Mishnah, it's going back to the basics about one husband, one Yavam, one Yavama, and what if he did two things to the same woman? Etc. That's the first case, and then it continues with the other cases, Mamar and then Get, and then Mamar Chalitza, Mamar and Baal, and it continues, but it's not talking about the case that the Mishnah introduced about two wives, it's talking about one wife. Okay, that's the way to read the Mishnah. The Gemara continues. So back to just to bring up the case a second. On the case where he did Mamar to the same wife, one husband, one Yavam, one Yavama, and after the first two cases, Mamar and Get, Mamar Chalitza, the Mishnah says Mamar and Baal, so Kimitzvasa. So we looked at the Mishnah, we said that maybe it sounds like it's the right way to do it, maybe it means that it's okay, nothing wrong, but not that it's not the way to do it. That's what the Gemara discusses now. This seems to support Rav Huna. That's not the way to do it. Means even though on the Raisa level, this is Zika, the husband died, and there's a brother. So the brother is supposed to have relations, supposed to marry relations with the sister-in-law. She becomes his wife. There's no din of kedushin. There's no such din of he does have relations, and they start living like husband and wife. It's a continuation of the first of the brother that died. But Rav Huna says no, that the way to do it, the proper way to do it is to first do Kedushin. Haret Mekudeshesli with a ring or with a shtar, wherever you do Kedushin, Haret Mekudeshesli, and then he lives with her. It should also be in the framework of a marriage, even though it's already a continuation of an existing marriage, and really you don't need that, but he should do it that way. And that's what the Mishnah means to say, that that's the proper way to do it. First do Mama. Mama means Haret Mekudeshesli, he gives her a ring, whatever, gives her a Shava Pruta, and then they live together. So the Gemara says it's not a proof. It's Rav Huna says so. It's true. Rav Huna says so, and that happens to be halacha, but it's not a proof in the Mishnah. It doesn't mean that it's saying that it's okay. Nothing's wrong. The first case is if he did a mamar and a get, or get and mamar, so then there's a problem. They have to do chalitza over there because since he gave a get. But what was the case again? Mamar and a get and mamar and chalitza. Those are problematic. So then he has to fix it up by giving chalitza or giving get. Mamar Abol, there's no problem. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. It doesn't mean that it's great. It doesn't mean that he did a proper thing. No difference. Maybe there's no din at all to do first mamar. Maybe it can be ball right away. So it's not a proof. If one says he should could do it this way, the proper way to do it is mamar and then bill, but it's not a proof on the Mishnah. It could mean that it's also good. But the more says pshita, that wouldn't be a chiddush. Is then a chiddush that if he did mamar and then he did bia, that it's okay. To say that it's a mitzvah would be a chiddush, but to say that it's also passes, nothing's wrong, is then a chiddush that something's wrong. Yeah, there is a chiddush. There was a gemara that said that even if there's a zika, there is a yibum, there is a connection of yibum, but if he does yimamar, so it could be that it changes the flavor of what's happening. Over there was talking about Bal Korcha. There was a sugya over there if he lives with her Bal Korcha, and the gemara had a tzad to say that even though a yevama it does take effect even if he did it Bal Korcha, but once he did Mamar, maybe it changes. Now it's not any more a flavor of Yibam, maybe it's a flavor of Erison and Nesuin. So there is such a concept. So you could think that on the contrary, if he does Mamar, so you change the flavor of what's happening. It's to be Yibam. And now it's Kedushin, could be now it's not going to. Since we said that if someone does Mamar, Tez Yivama, so the Zika Shivaman disappears, it flies away. And now it comes Zika Seres and Nesuin. It's a different kind of a marriage. You might think, it's for COVID, there's no Yibam anymore. But preciously, so from Yibam to Version, maybe not allowed to do it anymore because he's marrying a brother's wife without Yibam. For Mashmalan, that it is good. It's also good. But not to forget, this is only to explain how you could have went to Mishnah. But the Ma'aser Huna does say that is a mitzvah. Even though it's not a proof from the Mishnah, the Gemara says you can't prove it from the Mishnah. But the Ma'aser Huna does say so, and that's the halacha, that the proper way to do Yibam is dafka to be Mekadosh first, and then to have the Yibam. Now the goes into the subject, Gufa, he just finished saying, what if he didn't? What if he did Bia right away? So the way he was first quoted was had relation, first married, and then he did Mama, which means it's also good. It means the opposite order. First he should do Mama and then Bia. He did Bia and then. So the Rabbi Gemara says it doesn't make sense. He's telling to his wife, married. Relations, she's his wife. Now he put his wife and says, "No, good morning. It's you're already married." Involve us a mama pshita. They're already married. That wouldn't make sense to talk about mama after bia. He meant to say involve below mama kana. That's what he meant to say. The proper way to do it is first to do mama and then bia. But if he didn't, he just did bia alone without mama, without preceding a mama. Also, is kona. Don't think that it's a ma'akiv. I'm saying the proper way to do it, but it's not ma'akiv. If he didn't do it, he just did bia right away. Also, he's kona. The Ma'aser Kasha, the says Tanya Loka. It says that if he did bia without doing mama first, it's okay. So the sounds like it's going to do it, and maybe so things is maybe it shows that the bia is not. It's just going to. My answer is it's true he didn't do it properly, but it doesn't mean that it's not chal. Kana, it does take effect. The yibum is a good yibum, and they can stay married. But Malkus Mardas Midrabanan, we do give him lashes, not lashes on the Raisa level, which is called Malkus. Malkus Mardas just means it can be just as painful. The Malkus Mardas as the Malkus, but it means that it's not a chiv the Raisa of lashes. He didn't do it avera Torah, but the Rabbanan don't want him to do it like this, and it's improper to do yibum without first doing mamar. And that goes into a regular sugya, nothing to do with yibum. It has to do with a regular marriage. And also, the Gemara is going to say that there are some things that were not proper that Rav would give malchus for those things. And the Gemara is going to say to do yibum right away without first doing kedushin. The kedushin is going to be some kind of a how would you call it? Some kind of a connection before you right away have relations. There should be some kind of introduction. So the fact that it does a representation and it brings prerequisite. And now it's not requisite, it's not how much required on the Torah level, but it's the proper way to do it. And if he didn't do it the proper way, so then the Rabbanan, on the Rabbanan level, they would give him malchus. Now the more brings the sugi, this is all in Kedushin. On the side it says Kedushin of Yud Beis. That's the place where the Sugya talks about by regular kedusha, nothing to do with Yibum. We're going to learn now about 15 lines about nothing to do with Yibum. The Rav Mangir Amanda Mekadesh Bebia. Rav would give Malkus to somebody who would do kedusha bia. We know Ha'isha Niknes beShloshet Drachim beKesef b'Shtar b'Bia. What we do, the standard is to give Kesef. So we give her Ret Mekadesh Asli, gives her a fruta, whatever it might be, and that's the kedusha. And then the Nesuin is going to be later on when they live together. That's called the second stage. But there's another way how he kaddish b'shtar. He gives a document, no money, he does no ring, he just gives her a document that says a mekadesh, and that's also going to be a way to make mekadesh. There's a third way, b'bia, that he tells her we're going to have relations for the purpose of marriage. That's different regular relations we have after. We have relations after already she's mekadesh, she's already in arusa. Now the nesuin after then she that the actual effect of betrothal should also be b'bia on Torah level. He doesn't have to give him first to make maybe according to the generations that on the Torah level. It's a good marriage. Magid is Malchus. Aramaic for the word Malchus. No, it's Aramaic. So the Gemara, that's really all we need. But the Gemara is going to go on to a long list of things that Rav said besides other things that Rav also would say we give Malchus for. Rav Mangid have many things. I think I didn't count the list. We could maybe count it up afterwards. That's all we need for our purposes. Mandam Mekadesh Babi. So too, just like Kedusha be Ibum, which is by Kiddush choice, you have Kesef Shtar. So do the Kesef Shtar, don't do Bia. But by Ibum, this is only one way to do it. The only way to do Ibum is only with Bia. But still, proceed it with Kiddushin. That he should first do Ma'amar and then Bia. So the rest of it now is a bonus that we get from Mekadesh. If somebody's over to a woman, that gives, and even if he gives a kedushin with the money, but not in a privacy, it's done more like a hefkerus outside in the street, and he gives a ring in the shuk. That's also, he would give malchus to somebody that would do that. Also, the word shidduchin means that what we call shidduchim, that they're engaged before, means that there's some kind of an engagement between them. Someone goes over to a woman and he says, do you agree? Rab said he gave Malchus. That was also a priestess. That's not the proper way to do it. First, about the want to get married, they should agree, and then afterwards, but to go right away, even if she accepts it. If she doesn't accept it, it's not a marriage. But even if she accepts it, it's not sanua. That's the way that they make the marriage. First, talk about with a proposal, and then to make the kedushin. Also, goes on to other subjects. So a long list that Rabbi Gemal, this is all going on a tangent, and it's a bonus for us. If somebody nullifies the get, it means he gave it to a shliach. He gave a divorce document to a shliach to give to his wife who's not present. And after he gave it, so he has a divorce document. But then he tells the shliach, I'm nullifying it. If he takes it back, he can take it back. But if he doesn't take it back, he just says, I'm nullifying it, so it's really nullified. But the shliach has a document that says that she's divorced. It might somehow get to the woman, and really it's nullified, and it doesn't count. It's not valid. And if she's going to get married with such a document, either by mistake or on purpose, she's a Isha, she's really married. So if you want to be Muvatal Get, take it back. Don't just nullify it without taking back the document. Also, if somebody gives over a modah before, when he gives a get, the modah, I don't have an English word for it, but that would mean that he declared. What? Okay, but it's going to be an announcement, but an announcement that's not a public. It's going to be something he goes to Bezdin or not other way. He tells Aiden. Means the case Rashi says will be that if Bezdin is forcing him to give a get, sometimes Bezdin forces somebody to give a get. For whatever reason he has to give the get, but he doesn't want to. Before that, he tells Aiden that the get that I'm giving, I'm a piece of paper, but I don't really mean to divorce. So really it's not a valid get. And she's going to get the document, and she thinks that she is divorced, she's going to get married, and really it's not a good get. That's a modah. Modah means he announces before that what I'm going to do to force it. So that does that because again he's being machal his wife. The wife's going to get married and think that remarried. She thinks that she's divorced and really she's not.
Excuse me. How can somebody move on to a get?
He's the wife. He didn't. He's the husband. He didn't give it to her yet. It didn't get to the hands of the woman. He gave it to a shliach.
Don't give it to her.
I'm not only don't give it to her. Yeah, he's saying don't give it to her. I'm nullifying the get. I denounce the get. I wrote it and I was authorized to write it, but now I'm taking back my authorization. So it's not a
Because
good.
until it gets to her hands.
She's
the
not
shliach is
divorced.
Just like his.
Right, right. There is such a thing called a shliach la'alacha, shliach la'kabbalah. If the woman would make an agent to accept it, once it goes to his hands, so then he accepted it for her. But this is a shliach la'alacha. He's got a shliach that's giving it on the name of the Baal. So till it gets to the woman or to her agent, so she's not divorced yet.
And if it's in his hand, then if it's in the boss hand, then it's nothing. It's like if he ripped it up.
If he
wrote it.
he
and then
wrote it.
decided,
I'm not going to give it. Yeah, nothing
It's
happens.
not.
Right.
And since he gave it to a shliach, and now it's like he's not in control of it.
Right. If he takes it back, so he took it back. But if he didn't take it back, he just says he calls him up and says I'm nullifying it. So that's not a good thing to do. Now in those days, it would mean that he just told him and he got a message to him and he didn't take back the document. So it's dangerous that he has a document and the wife might get a hold of it. The next thing goes further. Man the papa shlicha d'rabbanan. If somebody is how do you say mitchatzef or audacious? Hefker Rashi says chutzpah. Someone acts with chutzpah towards a shliach bezdin. Shlicha d'rabbanan. It says a shliach of d'rabbanan. Rashi says shliach bezdin made him a shliach, or even a shliach of d'rabbanan. But they talk about even if he's not a shliach bezdin, but somebody who represents the chachamim. So if he is speaks with chutzpah against them, also that is a we give him malchus. Someone that spoke chutzpah against the representative of the rabbanan.
That means the fakir is
Right. You see Rashi. Rashi says chutzpah. Here it is. Rashi misparka lashon chutzpah. I don't know where Rashi got the translation from, or maybe the word hefker. He speaks with hefkerus like loosely. Okay. And what else do we talk about over here? Uman the shoyi shamta d'rabbanan alei tlasan yomen v'lo asi lebeidina v'tava l'shamta. Somebody that was put on chayrim. The word shamta means chayrim, nidui, excommunication, and he for 30 days, and he still didn't. I'm sorry.
You know that from Yom Kippur, from
And
no, that's not from the Atzaris and the Dor.
And somebody that did not come to ask the chachamim to retract it. Means they have the power to retract it, but he has to come and say that he regrets whatever he did, whatever reason that they put him into chayrim. If he goes with the chayrim and doesn't come to Bezdin to ask to retract it, Bob will give him malchus for that also. The next one is chasna dedar bebei chamui, that a son-in-law that lives by his father-in-law. So what's so terrible? What's wrong if a son-in-law lives by his father-in-law? So there is a understanding in the Rishonim that it means that there's a problem that the mother-in-law should not be living in the same house as the mother-in-law, that they shouldn't come to have relations. Interesting chashash that the mother-in-law has a certain fondness for her son-in-law, and therefore, it could be that the ages were closer in those days, they got married younger, and we don't want that there should be a possibility of being secluded alone, and they might get to know each other too well. So we don't want a son-in-law to live by a father-in-law's house.
The father-in-law
is there.
Traditionally supported him or no?
Not necessarily. The Rishonim do talk. Tosfos is not over here, but Tosfos here also says that the custom is yes to do it. What we'll see soon. The custom Tosfos says was that people did, and in
Kedushin, the girl stays at her father's house for a year.
No, then they're not married yet.
They're not married. Then
Right.
when they get married.
They did have Erisin. They did have Erisin, but they didn't have Nisuin. Erisin means that they were Kudeshiously. You do have the Kedushin,
And then she's kept.
and she's an Ashes, but she still lived by her father, still ready to live together. And then a year later, they would have the Nisuin, and she'd come to her husband's house.
And that house shouldn't be where she is.
Right. He shouldn't move
She
into his
should move
right.
out.
If she wants to move into her father-in-law's house, that's okay. But that he should move into his mother-in-law, to his father-in-law, mother-in-law's house, that's dangerous. And Tosfos talks about that the custom was to do it. And Tosfos says because they saved on rent. That was the point, like you're saying, he supported. So not after the support, but the fact that he saved on rent. So Tosfos says that the custom is yes to do it. So it's against the Gemara so far. We'll see a couple of lines more. I saw this morning, I saw a pshat in the Kedushin, Tosfos Riyazokin over there. There's something in the side margin of the Gemara over there that says a much simpler pshat. That the problem was, like Leib Yaakov started saying, that there was a year that they had a Erusin without Kedushin, without Nisuin. And at that time, she's really married to her husband, but they're not, but it's only what he called betrothed, and it's not yet, they didn't consummate the marriage yet, and used to wait a year. We do everything at the same time. We have Kedushin and Nisuin all together. That's the problem of the gate, that there's really not no relation. But they would do right away. When they would decide to get married, they would do the Reshes with the Sarah thing, but then he would live by father's. already. And more continues.
Saying the Khalif or-
Period. That's all right. I just thought we didn't do that yet. We just stopped by the word Bechamu. Bechamu means his father-in-law. A son-in-law that lives by his house of his father-in-law. The more is the conscience, the Dari in the Chol of Flow, it's only a problem if he lives there. But if he just passes by, just visiting or something like that, then it's not a problem. There's a problem even to visit the father-in-law's house. There was a story that a son-in-law passed by the gate, the doorway of his father-in-law, and if Sheshes gave him malchus for that alone, means not only not to live over there, even not to pass by. So the Gemara says, who made the Mevadayim Mechamase? That was a particular story that there was already a rumors over there that he had relations with his mother-in-law. That was why he told him to stay away. Like you have nowadays also, when somebody gets into trouble, we say, don't go in the whole neighborhood over there. So over here, the fact that there was some talk about him having relations with his mother, rumor, but there was talk about it over there. Said, don't go next to the house. And he did it in the father-in-law's house. Now, Dayamri,
Was it Dayan?
Dayam. Rashi says there's some kind of rumor that people are talking about it. Where's Rashi? Rashi that says there was a suspicion between his mother-in-law and him.
Murmur, something like a murmur.
Yeah, okay, maybe I'm not sure of the exact translation. I think so. So this was we're just interested in the first thing that Rav said, Man Makadesh Bebia. That was what we brought it in for. But because of that, we got the whole list, and we're saying many other things that Rav would give Malchus for. But Nardoi Ami Bekulu Lo Mangir Rav. Nardoi argues on the first quotation. Whoever said this, that Rav Mangir on all these things. So Nardoi say no. Nardoi, there's more in Sanhedrin says who Nardoi is exactly, the people from Nardoi. I'm not sure who that is. Bekulu Lo Mangir. Yeah, but Nardoi. There's a place called Nardoi, but Nardoi means the people, certain Rabbanim from Nardoi.
Why isn't there the big midrash there? There's two big shul, big.
Nardoi is a city.
But there were two big schools.
There's Surah and Nardoi. So it's a city, but no. There's a certain person. The one in Sanhedrin Zion over there, it says who's referring to. But anyway, there's a certain Mandiyam that says, no, you're misquoting Rav. Rav did not give Malchus to have all these lists. Which was not mentioned. We mentioned two things. Mekadesh B'Biyah, that was the first thing. And the first one, the Yevamos said that someone was Mekadesh B'Biyah, he would give Malchus. Also, he spoke about if someone read Mekadesh B'Lo Shiduchi. That someone would go and say to somebody who was Mekadesh B'Biyah B'Lo Shiduchi. That means that somebody would, Kedushin alone, B'Lo Shiduchi, he didn't give Malchus for that. And Mekadesh B'Biyah alone, also, he didn't give Malchus. As long as there would have been a proposal before, also he wouldn't give Malchus. But if it was no proposal, and the way there is Mekadesh Kadeshasli right away with Bia, and she agreed to it, but the fact that it has two problems, that it was Mekadesh Bia without any proposal, that's when he would give Malchus. That's what Nardoi says. So some do say the first thing that we said, that they do agree to Man Mekadesh B'Biyah, even if it would have been a proposal, but the actual first lashon at this point. Now, I do argue on Kadesh B'Lo Shiduche, Malim Avatal Gita is 4, Masam Adah Gita is 5, Pachas Shlicha Rabbanan is 6, the Rabbanan 30 is 7, Chas 8. So the 8 mentioned according to the is 4. The second version said, and two shown if it means with proposal without proposal. We just see that there's the first thing, which was Mekadesh Yibum. Also, we're going to say that it's not proper to do Yibum right away without any prior Kedushin. So the proper way to do it is first to do Kedushin, Mamar, and then to do Yibum.
Mama, right? We said Mama was the idea.
That's what we're talking about.
But Kedushin is.
Now the Gemara talks about what Mamar is, which we had many times already, but here it says beferish what Mamar is. Tana one case of Mamar. What does Mamar mean? Nothing like Kesef or Shabbat Kesef. That he gives him money. And Rashi says, and he says, that you have to say something else. You don't just give money like by a regular Kedushin also just gives money to a woman. He has to say, with this money, you are mitkadeshes to me. So that's what mamar is. And we said that a person is supposed to do what he does even to mamar, and say mitkadeshes, a ring, whatever. And then we had the halachas that once he gave mamar, then he can't. Then the other one, if there are two wives, then he can't marry the other one. All the whatever mamar, all the other effects. But this is the proper way to do it. First to do mamar, and then to do yibum. Ubishtar ketzad. The Bryce continues to say ketzad. If you would expect to mean that it means how could he marry? Do mamar b'shtar? There's mamar b'kesef. This Bryce is going to say that how do you do mamar with a star, which we would have expected that it should say. He writes in the star. That's what we can expect. But the Bryce is not going to say that. The Bryce is going to say if you skip the parentheses over here, you skip 4 lines. So the Bryce continues that he writes that I accept to support my sister-in-law, the yevama, as is fitting. So that's nothing to do. That doesn't make any sense. To talk about first kedushay mamar with a kesef and then kedushay mamar with a star, it doesn't make sense that the Bryce says that he writes, "I'm going to support you." Supporting has nothing to do with the issue of kedushin. So the Gemara, this is an insertion that the Gemara puts in to explain the Bryce. Means the Gemara knows the end of the Bryce that it's going to say this thing about support. So the Gemara says the words don't make sense. The star ketzad, kedamoran, like it says by kedushin. The way to star, write on a piece of paper, shard, whatever you write on, even though it doesn't have to have any value, so it's not kedusha kesef. That's what that's going to be. Kedusha mamar is also going to be at either he gives her money and tells us end off soon about the support. So the Roman case, how do you write a ksuba? We're not talking about anymore. How do you do mama? Mama, we finished. That you do it with money. You also could do it with a star. Also, that the Bryce doesn't talk about that. But now we're talking about a different subject. What is the nusach of a ksuba? Regular the brother-in-law is going to marry her for yibum. He also has the obligations of a ksuba, but the nusach is going to be a little bit different. But he says now the Bryce continues. This is what the Bryce is going to say. How do you make star ksubas yivamin? Because of law, he writes there on only so there's plonis yivamin. He says his name. I accept upon myself his sister-in-law's name to support as fitting. I'll just say Balavish. And it could be these words are also written in that I don't take upon myself the chiyuv of ksuba upon my estate. Means we had this before already that the yavam inherits the brother. Not unlike any other brother that when a brother dies, so if there are sons, the sons. If no sons, then the father. If not the father, then the yavam. But here the yavam inherits only. The other brothers don't inherit. So he says that the chiyuv ksuba is only from the estate that I inherited from my brother. There, the your ksuba is going to be the lien of your ksuba is only on his nechassim. I'm marrying you now. The chiyuv doesn't go onto my estate; it only goes onto the part that I inherited from my brother. But the Gemara does finish off like we had once before already. If there is no estate from the brother, he didn't yarshin anything, or not enough to cover the ksuba. So then he does have to give from his own estate in order that it shouldn't be easy for him to divorce. So that's the regular din of ksuba. We don't want it to be easy for a man to divorce his wife. That with the Raisa, or even you don't have to have her. With the bundles, you don't have to have her consent. He can divorce her. He could divorce her on his own. So they made the their brain of Gershom, but Minadin, he doesn't have to have her consent. But make it easy for him to divorce. We want to make it a deterrent, so he has to have a chiyuv ksuba. If he's going to divorce, he's going to have to pay ksuba. So this is also applies to the yavam also. Now that the yavam is marrying her, if there's no price that he's going to have to pay, it's going to be too easy for him to divorce. He'll get angry one day. So we want to make that it should be difficult. So we make from his own estate, and the kasha is going to that doesn't help anything by saying that it's only on the dead brother's estate. If we're going to say that if he doesn't have any, then it goes on the live brother's estate, so he don't get anything. That was a kasha that Taisus asked once upon a time. We had it before on the Flamet Tesam and Aleph. And over there, Taisus says there are nafkaminas where the Yavam would gain the fact that it's not on his estate initially, even though sometimes it does go on it. So that was Taisus over there. But the I spoke about Mamar is that he says star that says that's going to be Mamar. Agav, Raisa says the ksuba also is a ksuba like a regular marriage, but that means that he has to support her, or the other chiyuvim of ksuba, whatever other obligations the husband has to his wife. But the ksuba, the property, the estate that's obligated to the ksuba is not from the second brother, it's from the first brother. So that's more or less what we did in the Mishnah about the get and mom. And now the Gemara has a certain about a get. So again, we said, just to back up a little bit to the whole parak, I'll zoom out a second, that we said that on the Raisa level, there's either Yibum or Chalitza. Yibum is how he marries her, Chalitza is how he releases her. And then there are Banan inventions about a get and a Mamar. Mamar, we said now, is the proper way to do it. Before Yibum, you should do Kedushin. And besides the proper way to do it, also it has other effects. That once you give Mamar to one, he can't one, and actually also to the other one, and Chalitza. Yibum, all the different four factors over there. But the proper way to do Yibum is first Mamar and then Yibum. But by get, there's no din to do get before Chalitza. There's no such thing. But it does have ramifications. If someone did give a get, so then he can't do Yibum anymore. Even though on the right level he could, because if you give Chalitza, he can't do Yibum anymore. But if he gave a get, there's no such thing as a get to a Yibam. It has to be Chalitza. But if he gave a get, then since he showed that he's rejecting, so then we're not going to allow him on Rabbanan to do Yibum anymore. And we also spoke about that if he gave Mamar and he wants to release her now with Chalitza, he also has to release the Mamar, so he has to give a get for the Mamar also. So the Gemara is going to discuss a couple of questions about the get of the Yevama, which again is the Raisa that is said Rabbanan. The fact is, it's only a Rabbanan thing to say that once you got a get, you can't do Yibum anymore. So what are the parameters of this get? He gave her a divorce document, but he told her that you're divorced from me, but you're not permissible to marry anybody else. That's a strange kind of a get. Now, the Gemara is going to bring down by regular marriage, it doesn't work. If a person's married and he gives his wife a get, and separating, we're not going to divorcing, we're divorced, but this document is not going to allow you to marry anybody else. So it's not a get. So it's not.
It doesn't work.
You might think that it's us to her. They're not connected to him anymore. She's not with anybody else. And if he's going to hold her back still, so it's not a good get. And she's still married. It's like nothing happened. So the more wants to know if that's so by regular marriage. So he also the get of Yevama. If someone would have given his Yevama such a kind of a get that you're released from me, but you're not with anybody else. So maybe it's not a get at all. If it's not a get at all, he'd still be allowed to do Yibum. Here, it's going to be a leniency. If it's not considered a get, then Mamish could do Yibum if he wants.
What's this called? This get that's got a what's it called?
I don't think it has a name. Mahu, what's the halacha? Is it a good? Is it a get? Get Yevama d'Rabbananu. The whole issue of get over here, the Gemara is just introducing an aside, the Charis parentheses, that the whole there's no such thing as midrabbanan to give a get Yevama. But if a person gave a get to a Yevama, midrabbanan, it doesn't allow him anymore to do Yibum. He can't do Yibum after he gave a get. So get the mani beishas ish mani be'yevama. Only a kind of a get which would have been a good get by a regular woman. That's a kind of a get that takes effect by yevama that he can't marry do Yibum anymore. But get lo mani beishas ish lo mani be'yevama. But if it would have been a get, it wouldn't have been a good get by regular marriage. It wouldn't have done anything. So here it's not going to be a get either, and he'd still be allowed to marry her. He'd still could do Yibum. Or it's going to be confusing. If a person would have given such a get and then he's going to do Yibum, the person will think even if he gave a real get, a full get, also to be allowed to do Yibum, he's not allowed to. Once he gave a get, he's not allowed to do Yibum anymore. So do we make this Rabbanan Chashash? Amalei, so Abai asked Rabbah. So Rabbah said, that we are concerned that Begita, there might be a confusion to a get, and therefore, even though it's not really a get, it's not really a get. If he said, I'm giving you a divorce, but you're not going to be permissive to anybody else, so it's not a get, and really he should be able to do Yibum still, but it's going to be confusing, and people might make a mistake and learn from here that even after you gave a real get, also you can still marry her, and that's not true. So therefore, we made it to be considered a get. So according to your confusion, what if you gave her a piece of paper? You gave her a piece of paper and said you're divorced, blank piece of paper. And you're going to say also people are going to think that it was a get. And if you're going to let them do yibum after that, so then they're going to say that even after he gave her a get, are you going to stretch this gazera so far? So he says, no. There's a big difference between giving a get which is puzzle or a non-get at all, the blank piece of paper. If you give a blank piece of paper, nobody's going to think anything. And you do find that Allah, even by a regular marriage, what if somebody gave his wife a blank piece of paper and said that you're and really doesn't say anything. So is she allowed to marry a Kohen? He's a Kohen. If he's a Kohen, is he allowed to still stay with her? The husband, they could, because it's not a get at all. It's nothing. It's a garnish. But sometimes if he gives her a get puzzle, sometimes it's Allah that is called reach get. That if a husband who's a Kohen gives a kind of a get which is puzzle to his wife, even though it doesn't release her, but since it's reach get, the Gemara calls it right away reach get. It smells like a get. That's bad. People are going to think that a Kohen's allowed to marry a Grusha, that he divorced her and then he took her back again. So there's a difference between a puzzle get and a blank piece of paper. Here you do see that it's considered something, at least on the Rabban level, that looks like a get, and therefore we say that the husband cannot stay married to her. The Tanya, this is this week's Parsha Semor. It says that a Kohen cannot marry a woman who's been divorced from her husband. And there's a drash over here, but it's only at Asmach. It's not a real drash. It's a remez. It says a woman who's been divorced from her husband, a Kohen should not take. Even if she was not divorced only from her husband, I mean, she wasn't permitted to anybody else. This kind of a get. He gave a get to his wife and said it's a get, but you're not permitted to anybody else. And he's a Kohen. Is he allowed to stay with her? So it says you're not allowed to. It sounds like it's the Raisa drasha, but it's not the Raisa, it's a Rabbana. And the problem is because get, it smells like a get. It means that there's some, how do you say, even though there's no fire, there's a smoke over here. What?
Written get, that's possible.
So there, right, it's a get that's puzzle. It's written, but it's puzzle because he didn't release it to everybody else, so it's puzzle. But that's enough with Rabbanan to make that she's not allowed to stay married to a Kohen because it looks like a get. But a blank piece of paper, if someone a Kohen gave his wife a blank piece of paper and said you're divorced, and then she opens it up, sees that it's blank, then even though he's a Kohen, she's allowed to stay with him still because it doesn't even have the reach again. It doesn't seem like a get at all. So too over here, we're going to say that this get Yivam, and if it's a blank piece of paper, it doesn't do anything. And he's allowed to do Yivam. But if he gave her a get, which is possible in a case like this, that he didn't release it to anybody else, so then is a little bit of a get, enough to make that he shouldn't be allowed to do Yivam anymore, because people will confuse it and think that it's a real get. And they'll think that even after a get, a person is allowed to do Yivam. So that was the first question about a get, this kind of a puzzle get. Are we choshesh for it? Yes, the answer is yes. Even though it's not a real get, but it smells like a get, and therefore he's not allowed to do Yivam anymore. Another question. First, the Gemara is going to introduce what halacha is by regular marriage, by a get, and then apply it. How does that apply to a yibum? They say over there by gittin. That somebody is in a rusa, they're in a state of erisin, that we said that's kedushin without nisuin during the year that they're waiting, and he went to the sofa and said, "Write a get. I'm not going to give it to her now. I'm going to give it to her after the nisuin." He wants to prepare a get for whatever reason. They're going to have the nisuin, they're going to consummate the marriage, but he wants to have a get ready before. He wrote it at a time when they were still erisin, and he wants to give it after the nisuin. I raise a get. It is a kosher get because at the time, once he did kedushin, if they want to separate, they have to have a divorce. She's already married, even though they didn't consummate the marriage. From the kedushin alone, she's already needs a get. She's a eshes ish. Under the chuppah, when he says she's already eshes ish. So he wrote the get at a time that it is in his power to divorce her. That's a kosher get. What if before he married her? Well, the isha ba'alma, he didn't nothing. He wasn't married yet, and he went to the sofa to make a divorce document for the woman that he's gonna marry. He got everything ready before that. So then it's not a good get. What? No, with the name. He knows which woman it is.
He knows which woman. He puts a name.
Puts a name. He's gonna marry her. Before he gets married, before he does kedushin, he has to get ready. His name, his wife's name. He's not a wife yet. Then he's gonna marry her, and then he has the divorce document ready. So no, it's not a kosher get because it was written at a time that it wasn't his wife. Ulisha Balma. When he's ready, an authority to divorce her. If he's not even married, he's not an authority to divorce her, so it's not a good get. That's the introduction to our question. If someone writes a get before they're married, it's not a good get. Even if he gives it to her after they're married, it was written at a time that it wasn't the husband. Now how about over here? What would be the same case that he wrote a get for his yevamo. What does that mean? That
Before the brother died?
no,
So you've emptied him, there's a Zika.
There's a
but
Zika.
But it's not as well.
but it's not his wife yet,
It's like a.
and it's before Ma'amar. The most seems to be talking about even before Ma'amar. He writes, and the get is going to take off. Rashi over here says something. Here's Rashi. Rashi says the case is he wrote Chizivam. There's already a Zika. The brother died already. She's already a Skuka. He wants to write the get, and then he's going to marry her, and he wants to give her the get after. He gets the get ready. He plans. He could even say that he plans. But Yevamo could be that. He even plans the Chatchila only to have the initial marriage in order to give seed, but he wants the divorce afterwards. He wants to write the get while he's in the state of Yibum and give it to her afterwards. Is that a good get or not? By regular marriage, when there's no Zika at all, if she's not married to him at all, so he cannot give a get because he cannot divorce. Here, that he's in the state of Yibum, is it any better? How does the Gemara explain the question? Since there is a Zika, there is a connection, so it's the same state as a Arusa that he could, is Biyado Lagarsha. But since he didn't do Mama yet, so then the get is nothing. Only after he did Mama, then he can write a get because he could do a get for the Mama, but it's not enough of a connection. Take it, the more leaves as a question. Would this have been a good get if he would have written it before Mama and to give it after Mama or after he marries her? Is that enough to be considered that he's in the parsha of Gittin already? That the more leaves that as a question. A third question. Why Rabbi Hanania? Kasav get lizikasa below the mamoro, or the mamoro below lizikasa. Now we said that there's two things when her husband dies and she falls to Yibum. There's a zika, the fact that the Torah obligates to do Yibum, so she's connected to the brother-in-law. Also, we said that if he does kedushin, there's ma'amar. So then that's also something that needs to be broken. If they're going to release the marriage, so besides the zika, they also have to release the ma'amar. We had cases in the Mishnah that you need to get for the ma'amar. If he had two wives, he gave both of them ma'amar, so then he has to give them a get for the ma'amar, and then he also has to have chalitza. You have to release also the ma'amar. Here, he said the fair, I'm giving a get, he gave a get, but he's only did for one of the two connections. They're connected on two levels. There's a zika, because as soon as her brother died, there's a zika. Also, he did ma'amar. He gave her money instead of Ed Kudeshasli. And now he wants to break it with a get. But he said specifically, I'm giving a get only for one of the two aspects. I'm not breaking both bonds. I'm only breaking one of the two bonds. Either only for the Zika, not for the Mamar, or only the Mamar and not for the Zika. Does it take effect? Is the question good?
He did this after the murder? No.
Yes. He did. The brother died, and nothing to do with the question before. The question before is finished. No question. The brother died, and she falls with Zika. There's a Zika, and also he did Ma'amar, ready to get married, and then he gave her a get. Of course, you need chalitza also. They need chalitza also. But the get, he specified that I'm not giving a get that to divorce, to sever all the bonds. There are two bonds we have.
So
One is one of the two. He said
Because it's a get for tonight. You can't give it.
there's no tonight. No
Yeah,
tonight.
he's saying one of two only one.
No
of the-
conditions.
It
No
seems to me
conditions.
like if it
They
was
have two
Mamar-
bonds. There are two bonds,
Okay.
and he wanted to break one of the two bonds.
But you can't. Oh.
It seems like if it were for the mamar, that would be good, because in any case, he has to get on it himself. The rabbi said that the mamar, some kind of get. So it seems like that would be good. But if it were for the chalitza part, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
my
saying
guess.
that you can't give it a get which can't be completely severed. It has to be a complete severed.
So let's see how the Gemara is going to explain the two studim. The case is that one of two cases: kasav get the zikasa below the mamoro, or the mamor below the zikasa. They're connected on two bonds, both the zika and the mamar, and he gave a get for only one of the two, either only for the zika or only for the mamar. Does it accomplish anything? It surely doesn't accomplish everything, because he didn't give it for everything. But does it accomplish something?
Yeah, well, he has to do chalitza.
But the question is that, but you also have to give a get for the mamar. Is it in the case where did it work at all? Let's see how the Gemara explains it. Mamar, the Gemara says the two studim. Mamar ilave zika karami. But how does mamar work? What's the lumdus? How does the mechanics of mamar work? When someone does kedushin to a zika, to the woman who's a zika, does it come to be like a second layer? It's sitting on top of the zika. Mamar is a strengthening of the zika. Strengthening or sitting on top of it is the mamar on top of the zika. If someone would have someone divorced half a wife, he said, I'm divorcing half of you. Is there such a thing? No such thing. A person can't divorce half a wife. Not he didn't even if the next day he comes, I'll divorce the other half now. Nothing happened. You can't divorce half a wife. No such thing. So too, if he has two bonds, the two bonds sit on top of each other.
Means it's like
On top. The word of means on top. That the Zika is on top of the mom is on top of the Zika. And maybe if he only is going to remove one of them, he's only moving half a story. Half of the bond. They called that the bond became a thicker bond. And now he's taking away half the bond. Taking away half a bond doesn't work. Like same way you can't divorce half a wife. Nothing happened. There are two separate bonds, not that they become one big bond. So he snapped one of the bonds. There's another one still has to be taken care of, but the one that he snapped, he did snap. Each one stands on its own. And it could be that he give a get lamamoro below the zikaso. It could be that he gave that what he did do. We'll see a couple of applications soon. In a second, we'll see an application.
What does it mean?
That means that he accomplished to give a get to the mama.
And now what? There's a Zika.
Let's say so. He has to do chalitza.
Oh, if it accomplished it, can he do yibum?
If he accomplished what?
That he got rid of the mama.
So now,
He still couldn't do yibum.
oh, so that's a question.
Because
We'll
if
see
he
that.
didn't do anything and he gave it, then if he didn't make any, the rabbi said, we had on your chart, the rabbi said you have to give a get and you have to give chalitza if he did mama. So.
Let's put on the chart a second. What this case was one
that was
wife,
the first thing.
one
The
wife,
very first one.
mama and a get.
So he has to do chalitza.
Why? Because he gave a get.
So if he didn't do anything and he gave the get, didn't say anything and he gave the get, then he has to do chalitza. Right?
Because since he gave a get, we're not allowed to do yibum
So
anymore.
now are we saying if he said, this is gonna erase the mamar, maybe he could do yibum? Is that
So
what we're thinking?
yes, I think that's what Taisus is going to say. That if the case that the Mishnah says, maybe this case, I think we're going to see right away. Taisus says this case, mamash. This case, this is the first case in the Mishnah that he did one mamar and then a get. So it says we don't let him to do yibum anymore. It could be the case is only when he said the get is going on the zika. I'm giving a get for the zika also. I want to break the bond of the zika, but if he only says I want to break the bond of the mamar, so maybe it's erased, and then he's allowed to do yibum still. And really, this is a Gemara. We have Gemara like this on Daf 32. There was such a Gemara that spoke about it, and the Gemara is bringing it up again. That maybe there's a concept called a get lemamoro below the zikasa. He only want to affect the mamar. I don't want to affect the zika, and it could be that way he'll be able to marry her again because he never gave a get. He never spoiled the zika. He does spoil the mamar, and that's good. That's okay. So we'll see what the Gemara says about this. We'll see also the Gemara before on the Lamed Beis. But here, that's how the Gemara presents the question. When someone does mamar, is he putting it on top of the zika? And mainly you can't take away one without the other because it's like divorcing half a wife. Or Dilma, each one is separate. And whatever you break, you break. The other one is not broken yet. That's the Gemara's question.
That's kind of crazy because some hold that you're supposed to do mamar before you.
Okay, so go ahead. Why? So
he did mamar.
Yes.
He's doing a get to erase the mamar.
Okay,
Now
because he changed his mind. He doesn't want it.
to do yibum. So
Okay.
now they say give him mamar and marry.
Oh, you're saying that he's going back and forth. Okay,
Yeah.
it could be.
It
But
says a choice to marry.
If you say that the get only breaks the mamar and it doesn't affect the zika, there's such a thing as giving a get on one point, not the other one. It isn't. He didn't affect the zika at all. If you look at the mamar and the zika as two separate channels, and he did the get for the mamar, the zika wasn't affected. He didn't give it to the zika. If let's say there's no mamar, just he comes, there's a zika and he gives her a get. Then we say you spoiled the zika because you put a stain on the zika. That's the get and the zika that we're not going to allow anyone to do even. But if you say that the get only goes on the mamar, if he says specifically, I only want to give a get to the mamar aspect, that bond, but the other bond wasn't touched. Maybe you could do.
And you're saying that practically it could be the second thoughts. And
Yeah, that would be the case. Why he did that? Why is he's
Fascinating.
going back and forth? Yeah. So that's the Gemara's question. And now the Gemara thinks Rabba spoke about it already. Here's the Gemara that there was a Naflamed Beis with Tifshat with the Rabba. Let's be able to answer the question from what Rabba said. Rabba's not a Tana, but he's an Amori, also an authoritative opinion. Dama Rabba, Nasan Getam Amoro, Hutrat Sarasa. This was the Gemara back on the Naflamed Beis. It says someplace. Here it is. Naflamed Beis and Aleph. Over there, the case was there were two co-wives. There were two wives, and he did mamar to one. What does mamar to one mean? He's not allowed to marry the other one, right? If he has two wives, and he gave mamar to one, he's not allowed to marry the other one. He has to marry that one. But then he gave a get to that mamar. He wants to retract on the mamar that he gave a get. He gave a get to that mamar. Is he allowed to marry the co-wife? This is mamish the question. Do you
saying that it worked.
here it's Rabbi said that it works, but what's the rasa that he's allowed to marry the
That's
co-wife?
not on the back of the.
Doesn't go together with the zika. You look at the two separate things, and over there, the Gemara happens to talk about Rava if he's even allowed to marry that woman. He did mamar to one of the two wives, and he gave a get to that mamar. So Rava says he can marry the co-wife if he wants to, and then there are two. That's two lashonos in the Gemara over there. On the Flamet base, it brings down two. It's too much for me to skip over here. That's going to be a long. I can't. Yeah, but over there, on Lamed Beis, you can look at it, and the Gemara. It's easy to scroll in the Gemara. If you look at that Lamed Beis, you can turn to that Lamed Beis easily. So over there. Yeah, Lamed Beis and Aleph. It's that before the Mishnah, the first couple of lines, the fourth line. But the one who he did mamar and a get, he can't marry her anymore because people are going to think that it's a regular get that he gave for the zikr also. It's not a regular get. He only did it for the mamar. He's even allowed to marry her herself. My time up, whatever he did, he took away. So he did a mamar, and then he get, and he didn't do more. The get didn't do more. So Gemara speaks about this, and it says that Rava says for sure it's considered two, as far as the Torah is concerned. The Torah, he's not married to Torah according to both versions. If you'd say that the zika and the mamar is a package deal, so then he wouldn't be able to marry the Torah either because he considered there's a get over here. Or nothing was accomplished on. Whatever he did, he took away. But it doesn't affect more than he did. He did mamar, the get takes away the mamar, doesn't affect the zik at all. So the Gemara says, you're right, Baba does say so. And we're asking a question, so why is Rav Hananya not happy with what Baba said? The Rav Pshita Levi, Rav Hananya Miboyle, that it's true that Rav did say so, but Rav Hananya is not convinced. Rav Hananya is also a contemporary, he's an Amora, and he didn't submit to prove it. That's because Rava said so. So he doesn't know. Take you. So Rav Hanani didn't know. But Rava does hold that the concept of Zika and Mama are two separate things. It doesn't travel on the other one's back. They're not connected, and therefore you could break one without the other. It could be a get for the Zika, not for the Mama. There could be a get for the Mama without the Zika.
If you couldn't marry that same woman, it would just be a takana.
Right.
A zero.
Right. In the case where you get
People
right.
get confused.
Right. That's the that Gemara. The next Gemara we spoke about on our own. We didn't realize that it's a Gemara. And just to go back to the chart a second to find this case. Here, I think Leib Yaakov asked this kasha. In the Mishnah over there, let's put on the chart a second. Here, this was the first cases of the Mishnah with one yavam, one yavama, and first spoke about mamar, then something else, then get and something else, then chalitza and something else, boil and something else. In this case over here, chalatz and then mamar. One man, one woman, right? The yavam and the yavama. He gave her chalitza. How do you call that? The game's over. They're finished. He gave her chalitza, and then he did mamar. So we say einacha chalitza klum. They're already separated. There's no connection at all. So after the chalitza, if he did mamar or a get or a ball, it's like doing it to a strange woman. So Leib Yaakov, I think, it's true because you're not allowed to marry a chalutza. It's also to marry a chalutza. It's a chayvei lavin. He's not allowed to marry. It's not going to be kares, but it's going to be allowed. That's true. But the Mishnah says that it's nothing. So I think Leib Yaakov asked that somebody. I think Leib Yaakov that if he did chalas and then he did mamar, so he married her again. It's true. She's a strange woman, but he married her. He gave her kedushin. I read kedushin.
Why doesn't she need to get now?
Right. He's not allowed to stay with her because it's chayvei lavin. You're not allowed to stay with a chalutza. But why is it a nothing? Why is it a garnished?
Well, I mean, it's not a chavlah. It's ishsar.
But it's the Gemara says chayvei lavin. The Gemara says that the woman herself is only chayvei lavin. The question was about the other wives or the other brothers. That's a question if it's covered or not. But the woman herself, everyone else is only allowed. So the Gemara is going to talk about it in a minute. But so it's true he can't stay with her. But chayvei lavin is tofis kedushin. If you go back, Ezel Mamza, we had a couple of days ago. So we had a machlokas over there. When is the tefisas kedushin? By we passing that only chayvei koros is not tefis kedushin. Chayvei lavin is. So how come if he did mamar after the chalitza, it's a garnish, it's nothing, he should have to give her a get because it does take effect because he did kedushin to his chalutza. So why does the Mishnah say that it's nothing? Is everybody happy? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
The question is maybe you'd have to give a get.
Right.
That it affected something.
It affected. He got married. It's like he married a Chayv Lavin. And according to Rabbi Akiva, we had that he holds that by Chayv Lavin also in Tofis Kedushin. Nothing happens by Chayv Lavin. If somebody would approach a woman who's a Chayv Lavin and he gave her like a Nusa Saviv, according to Rebbe, whatever the case that we had, Machzik Rishosam, whatever the case would be. So then Rabbi Akiva would say that not Tofis Kedushin. But we hold like the Rabbanan that Chayv Lavin is Tofis Kedushin. Only Chavi Krisus is not Tofis Kedushin. That's why the question was a mamzer. The child born. If it's Chavi Krisus, the child is a mamzer because no Tofis is Kedushin. And by Chavi Lavin, it's not a mamzer because there is Tfisas Kedushin. So in this case, it's only Chavi Lavin.
So what about the third case then, the Beal?
I'm sorry, what happened over here?
Beal or
Boal.
Boal.
Yeah, he didn't have
Boal
Vera.
is also, you could say he really married her, and even if he's not allowed to be with her.
But he didn't mean to. Okay, he said you're asking in this case where he meant to
He's
marry
also
her.
married.
Okay, if the intention was to marry her, the kedushin is the mamish marriage. We had to
Oh, here we're
Kadesh's
saying is because of, no, but the intention is Yibum.
Yibum. So we tell him there's no Yibum, but
So
there's
then
no
Yibum.
Yibum.
We're also saying.
So
it's
that's
for Yibum.
okay. That may be the question. So Lev Yaakov was suggesting a teretz. The question was that after he did Chalisa, then he did kedushin, so he married her. He married her. So it should be necessary to give a get. So Lev Yaakov was suggesting that he didn't marry her. He said, "I'm marrying you as Yibum, Haviyat Mekudeshesli as Yibum, not a regular woman." And then we tell him there's no such thing. Rabbi, you made a mistake. There's no Yibum. It's over. So then, okay, go home. So that's the possible teretz. We'll see what the Gemara says about it. Cholatz Basa Maimar, it says that it's nothing. No, you don't need anything. I'm Rav Yudam Rav. Zudiv Rabbi Akiva. This mission that says you don't need anything is only according to Rabbi Akiva, who holds the Amar Kedushin Tosim B'Chavi Lavin. That's why it's Taka Chavi Lavin. It's Taka Kedushin to a Chavi Lavin, and according to Rabbi Akiva, it's nothing. Our Chacham Romim Yesh Acha Chalitza Klum. The Rabbanan would argue. The Rabbanan would say, since we paskin that Chavi Lavin is Tofes Kedushin, so this case of Cholatz and then Ma'amar, you would have to have a get because he married his Chalutza.
I thought Klum means nothing. If there is, means something.
Yeah, but the Yesh or Ein. It's true.
So
If you
it's
say
just the-
Ein Klum,
it's just
Ein
the-
Klum means there is nothing, and Yesh Klum means there is something. The word Klum, you say Klum means nothing. The word Klum could also mean something or nothing.
Okay.
Depends what you say. Yesh Klum or Ein Klum. So it sounds like Klum means something. So Yesh Klum or Ein Klum. If you say
There isn't
Ein
something.
Klum, there's nothing. There is no. So that thing means thing. So there's a thing. Is there a thing or no thing? Yes thing or no thing? Something or no thing? Okay, that's the most conscious. The Gemara in between has a problem, another problem. But if you say so, so far the Gemara is happening. That it's Takachavi Lavin, the point of Akiva is not Tofis Kedushin, point of is Tofis Kedushin need again. The Gemara is going to continue with this, Tani Namiyachi at the end of the parentheses. But at this point, Umi Master Smukh Slak Rabbi Akiva, could you say Amish Rabbi Akiva? Faktani Reisha, no san get, Vasa Mama, Tzricha, get Vachalitza. The Rebbe Akiva, even the Yav Laget, me mani bo mama, but Tanya Akiva Omer, Minay Lenosin get the Vimto Shenesra Allah Balamis, Shenema Layucha Bala Rishon Asher Shulcha, Achashiluach. So we're going now to the case of the Reisha, Nosan Get and Mama. Let's find that. Nosan Get and Mama. The first case here. It says in the first case in the Mishnah, not the first case. Nosan Get and the second series. Nosan Get and then Mama. So it says that they need a get and chalitza.
Yeah, the get was to get rid of the mama.
Right. And chalitza to get rid of the zika. And you don't let to give him anymore because he gave a get. But the Gemara is asking that there's a brisa. We never heard of this yet. But Rabbi Akiva says that after a get, there's no tfisas kedushin. Is that what he says? Let's see. The Reisha says, "Nothing get for mama, you need get for chalitza." According to Rabbi Akiva, the mama didn't take effect. You wouldn't need a get. After the get, there's no tfisas kedushin, and you're not going to have to do a get for the mama. But Tanya Rabbi Akiva Omer, that there's going to be a chayv lavin. The more things that Rabbi Akiva said, this is a chayv. Rabbi Akiva Lishitasa holds that chayv lavin is not tofus kedushin, and Rabbi Akiva holds that it's a lav. Means we learned the whole time All these Mishnayos, we said the whole thing is inventions. That there's no such thing as a get on a yevama. There's no such thing. So the fact that we said, let's say this case, how do we learn that the get and the mamar? We say that with the raisa he really can marry him, yivam. But it doesn't look good because he gave a get, so it looks a little bit like chalitza. So it doesn't look good with Rabbanan, so don't do yivam anymore. But the mamar takes effect, and therefore he has to give a get for the mamar. But the Gemara is asking that Rabbi Kiva has a drasha to say that it's a chayv lavin. A new thing, we never heard of this before. That a get to yevama is a deraisa concept. The Gemara is going to fall off of it right away. It's only going to last a couple of seconds. But the Gemara thinks if you, to a yevama, it really makes a iser deraisa to marry her. We never heard of that. And we're going to say a second that it's not true, even according to Rabbi Kiva. But the Gemara thinks the Brisa says that it has a deraisa effect that he's not allowed to marry her anymore. If so, Rabbi Kiva holds chayv lavin is not Tofas Kedushin, so this mamar is nothing. So he wouldn't need a get. So the Gemara is saying, how could you say that when we said this case, Chalatz Mama, we're saying it goes according to Rabbi Kiva, that it's nothing because Chayv Lavin not Tavas Kedushin. Here, it's not Rabbi Kiva talking because you find Rabbi Kiva says this is a Chayv Lavin, and it shouldn't be Tavas Kedushin here either. You shouldn't need this get. That's the Moaz Kasha. Why isn't that going? Yeah. How could you say this Rabbi Kiva talking? And the case before, it spoke about get and mama. It says you need to get on the chalitza. According to Rabbi Kiva, once he gave a get, there's a raisa to marry her now, and the mama is considered chayv lavin. He wouldn't have to give a get for that. The mama didn't take effect. Rabbi Kiva Omer, get that if someone gave a get to his sister-in-law, to his yivama, the raisa is not allowed to marry her. Over there is really talking about masik mushasa, that someone divorced his wife, she married somebody else, then he can marry her again. But there's an extra word over there, shishulcha, to say that sometimes, even if she didn't marry somebody else, also it's also for him to marry her. What's the case? This case of a yevama, that once he gave a get to yevama, he's not allowed to marry her. So it's issa deraisa, and it's chayv elav, it's not tofas kedushin. Rabashi get yevama with Rabbanan cross machadabam. Don't take it literally. The deraisa makes it onto a pasuk only to clothe it in the pasuk. That's not really the pshat. He himself doesn't know that it's this case. Is Yisad Rabban, and after they get us on Yisad Rabban to and the mom, so therefore it does take effect. It's not a Chayv Lavin, and the Mishnah could be Rabbi Kiva. So that Shiluach
is part of the pasuk.
No, Ashalacha is the pasuk. And what is it saying? Once he sends her away, once he sends her away, that's for him to marry her, who's not a regular husband again, but it's a case where alone, if it will be a yevama, if it will be a brother's wife who died without the brother who died, and one says no, don't take it literally. Anyway, how do we go back to at this point that the brisa could be Rabbi Kiva when it says after chalitza, the ma'amar does not affect anything. It's only going to chayv elav and not tofas kedushin. But according to the Rabbana, you'd have to really get. Rebbe, the Mishnah says that nothing after chalitza, it's only Rabbi Kiva, that he holds that it's the same severity of the chalutza nerva, which will say that it means that even just a few more lines to say what Yaakov said. Vani Omer Amos is manche kitchel shemishas. Other kitchel shemivamos and chalitza kolon. Even the Rabbanan, Rebbe says Rabbanan only meant to say if he's tam, as if to say. So then it's a question about marriage. Chalutza chayv elav, and it's so like Yaakov said that I'm giving you ma'amar. I'm doing kedushin of a yevama. So he's saying before only doing kedushin for a yevama, and she's not a yevama anymore. So then even Rabbanan will say that it doesn't take effect. And that's how you can answer our Mishnah. That the case, but the Mishnah is Rabbi Kiva, but the Rabbanan would agree if he would have given a ma'amar for Beferi, she only said Kedushin Yevama, so then since she's already Chalutza, it doesn't take effect. So we got
where are the brackets going to end?
What do you mean?
Oh, but Alma is the end. I see. Where was the Alma?
And the first one of the line is Asmachta.
Thank you.
Okay, to be continued tomorrow, Bez Hashem.
Thank you.
Yashikach, everybody. Thank you. We'll be back in a few minutes with Tehillim.